And I believe everything is running. So,
Yep.
Welcome to the Under the Pendulum interview show, episode 2. And today, I'm very lucky to have with me Purely Red from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, guys. How you doing? And if you could, give us your names and position in the band.
Oh, we may have to pause recording or something just because Colin just said that he's installing Zoom.
Oh, no. Okay. That's fine.
I saw that and I was like, oh god, could have been like 2 minutes earlier.
All right. So
Reload it.
So I'll pause and we'll be right back with one more. Boom. And we're back again with Purely Red. This time one more member. So same thing I asked. I'm just going to ask you to go down the list, give us your names and your position in the band.
My name is Griffin Williams. I am the singer and I play guitar.
I'll go. Okay. My name is Raphael, but I just prefer just Raph because the only people who call me Raphael are teachers that don't like me. And I play drums.
My name is Colin, and I play bass.
Incredible. So we got the guitarist and singer, drums, and bass. And I think we're ready to move on with the interview. So the first question that I had for you guys today is, if you were to describe your sound to potential, new listeners, how would you describe what that sound is? How would you describe the sound of your music?
I mean, if we start from the most descriptive to most detailed descriptions, or I guess the least to most detailed descriptions, least detailed would be alternative, like metal. Because we do borrow a lot of influences from alternative rock, but then we also pick and choose, I guess, certain aspects from like heavy metal, new metal, even some prog rock here and there.
We kind of have a hard time like describing our sound, but I'd say that's pretty accurate.
I would just say alt metal kind of covers all the bases.
Yeah, I guess with intent to what we try to do when we make a song is, obviously we like being heavy, but then at least personally, I think what we try to do is also try to incorporate like elements that are like catchy. So obviously we have like clean, we don't have too much screams. And I guess Griffin can probably elaborate more on this. We try and like incorporate a bit more. This is kind of where the alternative rock comes in, where like we kind of maybe focus a bit. We try to do like more catchy choruses and kind of thing to make songs more memorable-ish.
Yeah, I think we focus a lot more on kind of the melodicism of the riffs and kind of the catch rather than, just strictly being heavy. That kind of comes second, I guess.
I respect that. As someone who's in a band myself, I can say I always kind of preferred, melodic and catchy over heavy. So I definitely think that's a good move on your end. And I can definitely hear it because your music it's very good. I know that sounds lame for me to say, but I was listening through your whole discography last night, and I was more and more impressed.
Well, thank you.
So another question that I ask to a lot of the bands that I talk to, because I think it's just an interesting question, is why did you choose the name Purely Red? Is there a story behind it, some kind of influence, or was it a spur of the moment decision that just stuck?
Ralph, I'll let you answer this one since you love the story so much.
I mean, you're the one who did it, but I guess so it actually means quite a lot. It's like a lot of like meanings into one word. So basically, Griffin went through a band name generator and he clicked randomize, and the name was Purely Red, and that was it.
Wow.
Well, yeah, but there's a reason why. We were about to have a first gig, and I think it might have been before Raph was even like officially in the band, and we didn't have a name. We had Affliction was the name. It was very basic, but and all of a sudden like what we were playing was like this charity for somebody that passed away, and it was my guitar teacher and his drum teacher was like, yeah, Affliction might be a little too aggressive for this event, and we were like, okay. Well. let's change it. So that was kind of the first thing that happened. It just stuck.
Just
And also, shout out to Post Malone.
Yeah, Post Malone did the same thing. That's where I heard it from. I was like, Post Malone did it. You know.
I hadn't heard of that, but I mean that if it gets it done, it gets it done.
Yeah.
So another part of that, you meant that kind of got into there, but not really. It was I wanted to ask about how the band got together. You know, like who was the first person, and how did they kind of reach out to the others?
So it started as me and a couple friends just jamming. We never really did anything. We kept trying to get gigs, but nothing ever really got scheduled. And we finally got something put together. And my guitar teacher hooked me up with Raph, and that's how me and Raph met. And eventually, about a year later, we got Colin as our next bass player, and it's kind of been the same since.
Shout out Chris.
Shout out Chris. Yep.
Awesome. So, when you guys get together and you start writing songs, can you walk me through kind of the process of how a typical song writing, how the process typically goes?
I think it's probably different for every song. I think sometimes it, typically starts with like a riff, and it'll kind of elaborate from there. It could take, as little as like 2 days. It could take as long as, a year. Yeah. What do you think, Raph and Colin? Any elaboration?
Colin wants to say something. He can.
I mean, yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate for the most part. We don't really have like a set way of writing necessarily. It usually does kind of play out the same once we're like into it, but we don't really like, all right, this is how we're gonna write this song and this is how we're gonna write this song. It kind of just all comes together as we're in the moment of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think every band would like to, like, come up with all the writing like in person in the practice room. But we have a few. I'm in school. Griffin's in school. Colin's is like the only one who works, who has a job. So our schedules are pretty. Conflicting, and we usually a lot of the practice time we spend on practicing for gigs and stuff to make sure we stay sharp. So the only really time we can really work on material is if we send audio files over group chat. So it could be like a drum beat, guitar riff, a bass riff, maybe a guitar riff would have the verse, and then maybe a possible transition into the chorus or the pre-chorus into the chorus, and then back to the verse. And it's kind of just all feedback from there. And I guess the aim of that would be to have a part in mind so that if we do come back in person, you already have a part written out and we can test it out, kind of deal.
Yeah, so we kind of can have time to jam on it a little bit. So
Definitely an approach I've heard of before, so that's good.
How's my audio quality, by the way? Because this is like a microphone or a headphone mic.
Yeah, when it's still, it's fine, but I can definitely hear when you're like twirling it around and moving it. I guess that just comes with the type of microphone.
I'll keep it still then.
I mean, this is literally my stage mic. I have it running to an amp and then into my computer. That's why I was very much concerned when I first plugged it in, but it seems like it should be fine.
I'll keep it still.
But, okay, so roughly how long have you guys been, on the music scene?
as a band or just in general?
Yeah, like as a band.
I'd say probably getting close to 3 years, honestly.
I see. And in that time, do you have any bands that you've played with in particular who stick out to you? Do you have any, I guess, favorites out of all the bands you've played with?
I guess we can each say ours. I mean, I think we play with a lot of good bands, a lot of different cities. I'd say ones in Gainesville that stick out are Apex, are pretty talented. What about you, Raph?
Shout out people. Shout out Pine Drake. Yeah, mostly. I tend to like, I guess, notice bands. I guess that are more like my age group. I guess, or my age. And well, yeah, definitely shout out Apex. They're really good, and also people in Pine Drake. They just have really good sound live, and they got a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm. I think we also we play with a lot of cool people that hook us up a bunch of gigs. There's shout out to Banjo Steve and the No BS band. He's always hooking us up with gigs, different cities. So there's a lot of cool people.
Colin?
I actually kind of dig 13 Bloodshot, not gonna lie, they're pretty sick. Just as people, but also their music is always hyping me up when we go to shows with them. They're usually up in the Jacksonville scene. Shout out the Cogs of War and all that stuff.
Shadow of the Earth is another cool one. I mean, it's a big list. I mean,
A lot of
if we forget some of it. Shadow of the Earth, yeah. There's a lot. I'm probably blanking on a bunch as well. So
That's interesting you bring that up since I'll be interviewing Bloodshot on the 8th. So that's
Nice.
a little bit of a sneak peek, look behind the curtain. So your most recent album, unless I've gotten my facts horribly wrong here, I believe it was Among Us. Is that correct?
Yep.
mm-hmm.
So would you like to talk about that album a little bit? Maybe give some insight into the writing or what it means, kind of what your goal with this album was?
Yeah, I guess we can. Yeah, I'd say, well, the writing process was a lot of it. I think the reason we were able to get that album out so fast was because of Corona. Everything kind of shut down, and all of our gigs got canceled. So we were kind of able to come together and just every practice focus on the songs. You know, I think some of it was kind of old, some of it was new ideas that were kind of recirculating. So yeah. We were able to kind of get it out a little faster than usual, just because we had time.
Makes a lot of sense. Sorry if I'm pausing a lot. I'm just trying to make sure because this is the first time I've done it with 3 other people. So I'm just
good.
making sure.
So
Yeah, I'd say that sums it up.
To that, like it's kind of like like Griffin was saying, some of the riffs, when we talk about like how different songs take different amount of times. Like one of the riffs on Noose's End, that was a riff that Griffin, I think, sent me an audio file before Colin joined.
Mm-hmm. That was like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Was it really?
And,
Wow.
And I always thought it was cool because it's kind of like, well, I guess when he first sent it to me, I thought the downbeat was on a different place than where he thought of it. That basically, because like in the intro for Noose's End, we kind of like try and almost like, I guess try and like mess with the listener a little bit because it kind of we try to make it. We try and emphasize the one when the riff first comes in. We try to make it obvious that where the one is, but then when like the drums come in, it's on like the downbeats on a different spot, and then at the end of the song, it comes back to where it originally was the beginning of the song. That doesn't make sense. I'm not explaining it very well, but I guess
cool story, bro.
Makes sense.
That's kind of how that's how we think of it, though.
There's a lot of stupid arguments on that one, but
yeah, we're like
when making that song.
Yeah, like some songs like are some songs I guess you could say took 2 years. Like Energy was one that completely a lot of the similar riffs were there, like the intro, the verse, but like when we originally that song was also I think it was written for Colin, and it wasn't like bad, it just wasn't good. It kind of dicked around for like the main themes, and then when we were making the new album, we were like, oh, this has potential. So, and then a song like Between the Barrier, I think that probably took like a day or two, to be honest, to get the music down.
My favorite song.
Yeah, so it's kind of a bipolar approach, I guess.
But yeah, definitely like as far as like because I thought about this really, and it's like I'm not sure if it's easier to kind of think about it when you're coming from like a third party perspective, like from outside the band, because you might have different perceptions about like the sonic similarity or the sonic cohesiveness of the album. But I think and I was initially like, I guess, cold to the idea of the because there's kind of a variety in the I guess in the styles. Like you have kind of like a thrash metal on the closing track. You have that I guess that I don't know how else to describe it, but like the really the more Tool inspired riff on Noose. You got like some more catchy hooks on the opener, and there was kind of a mix. And I told this to Griffin, or that like I'm not sure if it was a good idea to have that many kind of like different elements on one album because it might lack a kind of cohesion. But it's grown on me.
I'm glad it did. So going further with this idea, I wanted to know if there's one unifying message from your music that you hope people will take. What would you say that message is?
Well, lyrically, I don't think there's a particular message for like, every song, but I guess for Among Us, a lot of it was just me writing about, kind of the world at that time. Especially that year, it seemed like the shit hit the fan constantly, whether it was Corona, whether it was, so the whole album was kind of just about the dark side of humanity, I guess. There's songs about corruption, kind of political tensions, so just kind of about that. And I guess, other songs range from other topics, so but I guess that would be Among Us.
Yeah, I can't say so much about like a message for like the earlier material. That's kind of just like a handful of tracks. As far as like a cohesive theme, it wasn't really much in like the EP, the first EP back in 2019. But that was more like a collection of tracks.
And I guess while we're speaking about those tracks, is there any song that you got to put out in particular that you would say is your personal favorite?
I feel like that changes quite often. So the barrier. I mean, I have different ones. For like playing live, I really like Noose's End. But if I was gonna like listen to one, maybe Point Blank in Between the Barrier. I also like Among Us, but I guess it changes.
I guess I also like Noose. Noose's End or Far Away From Here. I don't really like listening to our own stuff, so I can't say as far as that much.
Sure.
Like, that's not saying that I think we make bad music, but I don't know, just like, I guess far as from like, there's always that aspect of you when you listen to like your own material that, oh, this could have been better, this could have been better, and that's all I think about.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to my drum parts, or when it comes to like, I guess my particular drum parts, that's all I think about. So I don't get a lot of enjoyment of listening to my own material. So yeah, I wasn't trying to diss our own music.
Yeah, I relate to that. I mean, that's the hardest part about me producing my own music is I am way too hard on the mix. I'm just not happy. But
yeah, and another part of it is, you spend like 2-3 months just constantly listening to it, picking out every little minor thing of the mix. So once it's finally out, you're kind of like, I've listened to this so many times, you lose like the enjoyment. But yeah, I mean, it's not a diss our own music. It's just,
Perfectionism at its finest.
Could you repeat that? I was a little quiet.
Perfectionism at its finest, really.
He was saying, yeah, he was saying, I think you said perfectionism at its finest.
Yes.
Okay.
I apologize for the technical difficulties.
It's all right. I mean, happens. It happened to me last interview, and I'm glad that things seem to be a little better this time around, but I don't have any wood to knock on. sadly.
I just knocked on it for you.
Appreciate it. So, if you look into the future of the band for a moment, what would you say the future of Purely Red looks like?
Well, we've got a new release coming out. Hopefully we'll have a single out in the next couple weeks. Then an EP of some re-recorded tracks we did from our old EP, just to kind of get them out in a better quality. So hopefully that'll be out about March, April. Hopefully in the summer we can hit the studio on a new album. That's hopefully the goal. I mean, we never know. And just to play a big chunk of shows, hopefully just keep growing the brand, constantly just trying to grow and develop more.
Yeah, I guess as far as the new EP is concerned, that's coming out, as anyone could probably determine for themselves, there's a sharp increase in like the quality, I think, in our music, and it's down to like a lot of factors. It's like when we recorded the EP, we basically recorded those 5 songs in 2 days, and that was our first, that was our first time in the studio, like ever. And that was why we decided to do that. At the time, it seemed like a really good idea. Probably should have just done singles. In retrospect, I think we could have maybe done a better product. Although it is true, we might not have a release, and it was a really cheap way to get our material out. Or not a cheap way, but it was efficient. And but I think as we've continued over the next 2 years, we got like better equipment, more experience. We've been better prepared, and so and that kind of makes us excited for whenever we write new stuff, because we have, I think all 3 of us think we definitely have like an upward trend, and with each, we feel that with each release we can get better and better. And that was kind of like a big reason behind, I guess, the EP release for our decision to re-record 3 tracks from the EP. So
it's a good momentum shift into the next, endeavor we do.
So one more question, going back to your past. Are there any moments in Purely Red's history that you feel particularly proud of?
I'll think of one. What was yours, Raph and Colin?
Go ahead, Raph. Yeah, I'm putting it on you.
I mean, definitely. I mean, obviously, like landmarks, whenever we release new material, and that's been my favorite moments in the band, when we're in the studio, and we're just making music. As far as, I guess, live shows goes, the live performances, I mean, whenever we play at High Dive in Gainesville, that's always a pretty good time, just because they got like a stage, and we don't really play too many stages yet, but nice stage. They got some cool atmosphere going on, decent acoustics, and then since we are from Gainesville, we can bring a bigger crowd there. So whenever we play there, it's a good time.
Yeah, I would say releasing Among Us felt really good. It just felt good to have, like a really, kind of cohesive, good product out. I think, it felt good. I think the release of the Point Blank music video was another one, because it got really good reception compared to what we've done. I think it's almost at like 9,000, 10,000 views on Facebook and YouTube. So that felt good. And whenever somebody, after a show just comes up and is appreciative of the music, that's always really nice. We've been signing a lot of shirts recently, which was a little bit weird. You know, I don't know if we're at that level yet, but you know, it's always
I wouldn't.
appreciated.
I wouldn't say a lot of sure. I think it's still in the
Well,
digits.
it's still in the single. Yeah, it's probably in the single digits, but just, you know, whenever somebody comes up and is appreciative of the music, it's always cool.
For me, my favorite part is definitely every single time that we play like a charity gig or just like something that's raising money for a cause or something. Because I always feel like as a band, we have managed to do some good for the world in some sense. And that's like probably like the greatest feeling is just knowing I played music and that helped somebody. So whether it's through a charity or if it just made the music themselves made somebody feel better about themselves, that's the end goal. So that makes me feel good inside.
That's incredible. I love hearing stuff like that from bands. So that's all the questions I had prepared for today. But of course, I like to offer the opportunity for you guys to bring up whatever you might want to, or if you have any announcement that you'd like to make. This is your chance to put anything out there. It's an open book.
We've got a new single for our song. We redid it called Cold. Hopefully that'll be on the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then we got a new EP on the horizon, hopefully March or April. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, we've got a bunch of shows. So keep posted. We're pretty much always on the grind with shows.
You can find our show dates mostly on Facebook, right?
Yeah. Check us out on Facebook.
Facebook.com/purelyred.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Check out Facebook, Instagram, Spotify. Just pretty much just check us out wherever you look at that stuff.
And I guess also shout out Jared at Z Chord Studios and Ryan Williams and at Black Bear. They've helped us out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if that's all the comments, this has been Purely Red of Gainesville, Florida. Thank you so much again for coming on the show.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks for having
A
us.
pleasure.
And with that, I believe this is Under the Pendulum Interview Show, signing off.